Howdy doody. So, apparently, I'm late to the party to this, but Mr. Gates, Mr. Bill Gates, the old nerd, has decided that he is now not so keen on the whole climate change thing. This apparently happened a few days ago, 6 days ago. Isn't it great? Now, I've seen a couple of videos about this, and everybody's biased, so I thought, let's go and take a look at the article. So I've never read this at all, which means I'm improvising now. So let's see how this goes. 3 tough truths about climate change. Okay. What to know. What to know. I can't. Yeah, there you go. That'll do. What to know. So climate change is serious. It's very serious. But we've made great progress. Who is we and what progress? We need to... I cannot stand this collectivization. We need to keep backing the breakthroughs that will help the world reach zero emissions. Like what? Electric turds. But we can't cut funding for health and development. Programs that help people stay resilient in the face of climate change to do it. Mate, every government is so absurdly insolvent. You need to start cutting costs on literally everything. Let alone poverty and whatnot. It's time to put human welfare at the center of our climate strategies. Which includes reducing the green premium to zero and improving agriculture and health in poor countries. I do not know what the green premium is. Agriculture and health in poor countries. Did you see what's happening in the, quote, rich countries? At all? You heard of Luton? I don't know, Matt. Anyway, so, human welfare. Now, I'll touch on this real quick. Human welfare versus climate strategies. So, for about 2 generations, there's a narrative running in people's heads. I can observe it in many people with whom I speak in real life. Unbelievable, I know. About the whole climate rubbish. Is that there is essentially an anti-human vein in this. Lots of people think, apparently, my parents-in-law is an example, that humans are destroying the world in various ways. In fact, they openly think that it would be best if everybody dies, which I think is very odd because they have 5 grandchildren. But, setting that aside, we need to pick a lane, right? You're either going to be human welfare, because human welfare means burning things to keep warmy warm. Okay, as an example. Or you need to think about not emitting things. I'm not sure the two work together. But let's see what Bill has to say. He's much more intelligent than me after all, so we're good. So there's a doomsday view of climate change that goes like this. In a few decades, cataclysmic climate change will decimate civilization. That's literally what I just said. The evidence is all around us. Just look at all heat waves and storms caused by rising global temperatures. Nothing matters more than limiting the rising temperature. Okay. This is interesting because I just said that this is literally what I just said, but it isn't. It actually has a really backwards position. Because that's kind of the peculiar contradiction of this thing. It's either pro-humans or pro-Earth, and in this case it's basically saying pro-humans is what we've always said. That's not true. That's not true. Lots of people think that the world would be better off without people. Of course, they don't mean themselves or any of their loved ones. It's quite common. Fortunately, for all of us, this view is wrong. This is the view you've peddled for ages. Well, it's not. What the heck happened? Huh? I don't want to go... What? Sorry about that. I'm advertising for Bill Gates. He doesn't even pay me. Could give me like 3 pennies every now and then. Bloody bastard. Anyway, fortunately for us, this view is wrong. This is an alternative version of this view is what this man has been peddling for ages, decades, which I think is why it's generating so much backlash. Though climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for people in the poorest countries, sure why that is, but okay. It will not lead to humanity's demise. Listen, champ. You did not know that it would before. when you pedaled that it would. And you do not know that it won't now that you're pedaling that it won't. Systems of this sort are so absurdly complex. Like, we can't figure out I do apologize. The climatologists, whatever their name is, can't seem to be figuring out what the weather is going to be like on Thursday, and it's Monday now. Right? Oh yeah, but the larger models, blah, 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 the trends, whatever, dude. We do not know. You do not know. I said we again, didn't I? Sorry, it's a virus. I do not know, that's for sure. Right? But I am not about to say country X needs to spend all of the tax money that's coming in for this fool's errand. That is nonsense. That is insanity. And that is precisely what has been done. The fact that electric cars exist at all right now is purely because of this subsidy. They would have collapsed on their own. Right? The fact that there's some early adopters is fine. I don't even care about the electric vehicle. You want an electric vehicle, go ahead. It doesn't matter to me. But don't force me to change. Don't force it's just force. All of these plans are only to force people to do things based on theories. And they are theories. Right? So apparently this individual, Mr. Bill Gates, is now backpedaling. Okay. People will be able to live and thrive in most places on Earth for the foreseeable future. Is that right? Because I thought you were saying exactly the opposite. It was, not only was it doom and gloom, guys. It was like, we're all going to die. It was also, there's nothing we can do about it. And then it was, but we should still try. That's what governments said based on this. And this person was also informing this world. For some reason, it's influential. It makes no sense at all. It's not like we made an operating system, and I don't even think you did, or something. Right. So anyway, emissions projections have gone down, and with the right policies and investments, innovation will allow us to drive emissions down much further. I don't like this. Why? How? Is it man-made, the lack of emissions? Somehow. I don't know. Of course, nothing is explained. It's pretty, like, you won't explain the things that are actually interesting. It's just time to proselytize now. So, unfortunately, the doomsday outlook is causing much of the climate community. This isn't a thing. Climate community doesn't exist. To focus too much on near-term emission goals, and it's diverting resources. I'm interrupting all the time. Sorry. And it's diverting resources from the most effective things we should be doing to improve life in a warming world. There's no things that should be done to improve life. It's not your job to improve life. It's an individual job to improve life, and the world is potentially not warming. But other than that, the punctuation may be correct. See, that's why I interrupt all the time. Because if you read or listen to these people and you do not, buy in the theory that these are magical people with 275 IQ, they're just people. Blah, like me. Okay? So, it's not too late to adopt a different view and adjust our... There's no hour. God damn it. Okay, carry on. Our strategies for the... Sorry, I got a notification. Fortunately, my camera's covering it, so I don't need to edit it out. It's not too late to adopt a different view and adjust our strategies for dealing with climate change. Next month's Global Climate Summit in Brazil, known as COP30, probably 30 nations are participating or something, is an excellent place to begin, especially because the summit's Brazilian leadership is putting climate adaptation and human development high on the agenda. Lula's Brazil. Okay. This is a chance to refocus on the metric that should count even more than emissions and temperature change. Improving lives. Mate, enough with the line. Metric. This is immeasurable. Lives improve fantastically well if you leave us the heck alone. Stop taxing us. That would be a great way to improve our lives, wouldn't it? You absolute monster. right? Lizard people. Okay? We will improve just fine if you leave us the heck alone. Which you never will! So, our chief goal, there's no our. See, that's why I hate this pronoun. Because, check this out. We is referring here to you and me, to the world. Everybody, people. Okay? We should be doing to improve life. Everybody. I should improve my own life and everybody around, and everybody's life around me. That's what that we means. Now check this out. Our chief goal, and he was talking about the COP30. What is that? Star Wars thing. Anyway, he's now referring to the leaders. I suspect. To the people that are going to be present. Why did I say people 3 times? Present in this summit. This is the kind of sleight of hand you can do when you speak dishonestly. The term, like a plural subject, allows me to hide inside that subject and shift around wherever I want to be in various categories. Because now I'm pretending that there's a collective and I'm always part of all of them. Even when I shift the collective. Anyway, so our chief goal should be to prevent suffering, particularly for those in the toughest conditions who live in the world's poorest countries. This is platitudes. So what do you want to do? Go donate money to Indians who scrounge on the ground to eat? Is that like kids that are trying to scam you every 5 seconds? Is that what you're going to do? I don't know. Although climate change will hurt poor people more than anyone else, for some reason, for the vast majority, I mean, they won't need to heat, if that's true. I don't know. For the vast majority of them, it will not be the only or even the biggest threat to their lives and welfare. You realize this now? Well done. My grandma could have told you that. The biggest problems are poverty and disease. No, the biggest problems are government control. You disgusting lunatic liar. Okay? Just as they have always been. Yeah, this bit is correct, except these are wrong. Disease is essentially eternal. Has existed forever, comes in waves, comes and goes, comes and goes. Look at the magic virus. It was there for a bit, then it left. Ta-da! Right? Poverty is a nonsensical concept. Because a man's life is not a dot. It's a line, and this line moves, and it's not linear. It sort of shifts about. It's a curve with various ups and downs and stuff. Right? So I don't like any of this. This is so many lies. Understanding this will let us focus our limited resources. No, what are you talking about? Governments have infinite resources. They have infinite resources. They're taxing their people probably on average at 80% in every rich country, okay, which is not rich anymore. In fact, they are all collapsing, with public debts being at levels that are inconceivable, with governments selling their own bonds to countries that are slightly richer, like China, in order to, pretend they are not so freaking underwater, right? You don't have limited resources, you have unlimited resources because you live in the unconstrained vision, as Thomas Sowell said. In that book of his. What's it called? The Vision of the Anointed. You have no limits. We need to fix poverty at any cost. No. Incorrect. And you consistently remove agency from us, the people. If I want to be poor, I'll stay poor, whether you like it or not. So, where was I? Right. Interventions that will have the greatest impact for the most vulnerable people. There's no way to measure this. There's no way to measure this. Useless man. I know that some climate advocates will disagree with me. Well, I'm not an advocate, I'm disagreeing with you. Call me a hypocrite because of my own carbon footprint, which I fully offset with legitimate carbon credits. Or see this as a sneaky way of arguing that we shouldn't take climate change seriously. To be clear, Oh, this is an important sentence, guys. It's bolded. To be clear, climate change is a very important problem. It needs to be solved along with other problems like malaria and malnutrition. Still with this one, dude. It was like 30 years ago you were talking about this. Every 1/10 of a degree of heating that we prevent is hugely beneficial because a stable climate makes it easier to improve people's lives. Is that why you're aerosoling everywhere except Florida where it's been made illegal? But I thought there was a conspiracy theory, the whole, chemtrail thing, it's all fake. Except we now legislate against it or for it. It really depends on where you live. I don't understand how anybody takes any of these people seriously. It's like taking Al Gore seriously. Like, I remember when I was a kid, my dad was like insisting, petrol is running out, petrol is running out, petrol is running out, because Al Gore was peddling this theory on telly, right? And then petrol didn't run out. Petrol still hasn't run out. I do not know what's going on with petrol. I suspect nobody has any damn idea how much petrol there is, how much oil there is. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who extract it that will have an idea. I genuinely don't know. But these claims are all false. Like, how does anybody take anybody like this seriously? How many times must Noah be wrong? Because he's building a ship on top of the hill with your money. Trying to improve, I don't know, Habib's life? That's the theory? This should be rejected resoundingly by everybody. Not the, the climate advocates. Everybody should reject you. The climate advocates should reject you because you've just thrown them under the bus, fundamentally speaking. You've essentially openly stated that everybody's been lying and putting their priorities in the wrong place. So there's that. And everybody who instead is a climate skeptic, because these are the only two categories possible apparently, needs to reject you because you're lying or you're retarded. Both are fine, to be honest, right? But either the retarded or the liars are not people that you put in charge of anything, including opinion forming. So, mission innovation, accelerating clean energy revolution. Oh, who's here? Okay. Trudina's here. There's Bill Twat. Oh, I can't say that. Billy Bob boy over here. There's Obama boy. I recognize this individual, but I don't remember his name. No idea. Hey, Renzi. Matteo Renzi. Look at him. Isn't this Cameron? Isn't this Macron? I'm reasonably confident this is Matteo Renzi. This I do not know. Looking as awkward as ever. Okay. Look at him here, doing the outreach. How lovely. Did you bring them drinks? I've been learning about warming and investing billions in innovations to reduce it. Could you do us all a favor, Billy Bob Jones? Here's what you need to do, Billy. You need to invest your money into a foot massage by 27 aliens, okay, at $1 billion each, and just enjoy life and retire. That's what you need to do. You are not a guardian angel of the people. You haven't been elected to guardian angel of the people, and nobody wants you there. So if you could kindly stop investing your money, which is to say spending it in, feel-good clout, to ruin everybody else's life, because with everything you do, you cause a reaction you're not aware of. I do not know if this is a real quote, but I recall people talking 2-3 years ago that your intervention in the African countries to reduce deaths of birth and stuff like that is one of the main causes, or something to that effect, of the damage done by the migration patterns into Europe. I do not know if this quote belongs to you. I don't particularly care, right? I'm not going to look into every thing, but I would really like it if you and all of the politicians you know embezzled all of the money and went to sip caipirinhas somewhere in the Caribbean. Could you do that instead? For me. For all of us. And let us live our damn lives. And let the people who lift themselves out of poverty alone, if they're capable or willing to do it. Nobody wants your influence. Well, that may be wrong. Maybe some people do. I don't want your influence. Not that I matter because, democracy or something. Anyway, I work with scientists and innovators, who are committed to preventing a climate disaster and making cheap, reliable, clean energy available to everyone. This is not a thing. So far, it hasn't been a thing, catastrophically so. Right? Renewables, my understanding is, as a complete punter, are expensive, unreliable, and not so clean. Right? And countries that have nuclear and stuff like that, like France, are exporting their energy all over the place. And it's just fine. I don't know. I'm not an expert to any degree. In fact, I'm so not an expert. Everything I'm saying is of no value. But here's how it works. You want to you want to work all sorts of stuff, then go ahead, work the stuff. Right? Spend your money on that as you say you do. I don't know, but could you leave me alone? I do not want your help. There will be people who do, that's fine. Help them personally. Do a thing for them. Build them a house. I don't care. But I don't want your help. And I'm sure there's a heck of a lot of people in the world that don't want your help. You are not my dad. I didn't ask you to be. Also, preventing a climate disaster. So there is or isn't this climate disaster. Where was it? The biggest problems are poverty and disease. Refocus on the metric that should count even more than emissions, temperature change, improving lives. Preventing a climate disaster. Pick a lane. 10 years ago, some of them joined me in creating Breakthrough Energy, an investment plan. Just money. That's all you do. An investment platform whose sole purpose is to accelerate clean energy innovation and deployment. Would love to see your achievements. We've supported more than 150 companies so far, many of which have blossomed into major businesses. I'm sure they have. Without government subsidy, eh? Shut up, liar. We're helping build a growing ecosystem of thousands of innovators working on every aspect of the problem. Now, there's one aspect you're not working on, which is individual agency, which is nobody wants you, go away. That's an aspect you're not working on. Next. My views on climate change are also informed by my work at the Gates Foundation over the past 25 years. Okay, the foundation's top priority is health and development in poor countries, and we approach climate largely through the lens. Notice the we again. This time it's referred specifically to the company. Not to the people, it's him now. And whatever his team is. This has led us to fund a lot of climate smart innovations. I suppose the climate retarded innovations, there's lots of those. Especially in agriculture, in places where extreme weather is taking the worst toll. Can you explain then why farmers all around the developed world are constantly complaining about not being able to make any margins? In some cases, their land is being stolen. They are being absolutely squeezed through regulation for both what they can earn and what they can or can't plant, how they can do it, how they can deal with their animals and that sort of stuff. Once again, not a particular expert in any of this, but I do know that there's lots of farmers that have complained because there have been enormous protests of them going around with their guzzling tractors in the middle of cities blocking all sorts of stuff. Look at Spain and Holland as an example, or look at the whole Clarkson situation. So I'm not sure what innovations you've done in agriculture. Because, you know, when I used to live in Alberta, this was a few years ago, the agriculture looked very static to me. And so it does here where I live now. So I'm not sure what's happening. COP30 is taking place at a time when it's especially important. Wouldn't it be great if the farmers innovated for themselves and you left them the heck alone? So COP30 is taking place at a time where it's especially important to get the most value out of every dollar spent on helping the poorest. The pool of money available to help them, there isn't such a thing. There is no pool of money. So this pool of money to help the poor, so we need to break this down. I need to break this down. Because here's how it works. I can't go one sentence without hating this guy. So the poorest is a global concept. So by the poorest he means Somalis, he means Indians, whatever. Right? That's what he means by the poorest. The pool of money is also a global concept. Except this global concept does not exist. Because at the moment, there are nations. I mean, I'm sure the UN is moving some money. I'm sure NATO, these kind of like international organizations will have some sort of funding of some sort and some kind of money they can move about, but whatever, right? He's arguing that there is a fund, a hole in which money is put by every nation that is categorically rubbish. And it should be rubbish. Because of the national taxation system. Here's what taxation means in a country. Any country. Okay? It means the following. We, the government, are going to extract money from the people that reside within this country. Citizenship is irrelevant. It's residence that matters. To pay for what? Okay. Our own existence, the government's existence. Right? All sorts of services that are national. Police, roads, whatever. Right? The welfare of the people within this nation. That is the proposition. So the people contribute, forcibly of course, but let's set that aside. Contribute for their own welfare. It's a circular system and it's a closed system. That's how a nation functions, right? Then there's international stuff like the military, okay? Or helping an ally or something like that. That's where the money is going. Do you know what there is no room for at all? Foreign aid. There is no person in any nation that's going like I am absolutely adoring the fact that my pension and my children's benefits, for example, are being spent on somebody in Somalia. Because if that's how this idea were proposed, a heck of a lot of people would be vehemently against this. Particularly when most countries, like I said, are severely insolvent. Like in Europe, in my lifetime, the retirement age when you get your own pension in every country has been creeping up and up and up and up. Why? Because the government, as the Italians would put it, c'ha le pezze al culo. That's a bit rude, I'm sorry. Which translates to, the government is a hobo. Okay? They have absolutely no pennies to rub together. Right? So the people that have been paying all their damn lives into the machinery are being shafted severely. But they're rich, right? So it's fine. Take their money and funnel it to someone else. No, Gates. It's incorrect. It's wrong. And you're not asking anybody for consent. Are you not interested in consent? No means no, Billy Bob. There is no pool of money available to help the global poor. The end. Which was already less than 1% of rich countries, but there are no rich countries. Everybody is permanently in debt. How do you call that a rich country? Liar. What you mean to say is countries that are further ahead in the evolution of technology. That's what you mean to say. Is shrinking as rich countries cut their aid budgets and low-income countries are burdened by debt. Everybody is burdened by debt. Show me one rich country that is not in debt. And I don't mean a slight amount. Billions and trillions. That's what we're talking about. By now we refer to debt as percentage of GDP. So GDP is the concept of how much money a country generates, essentially, right? Then taxation steals probably about 60-70% of that, right? Then uses it inefficiently, because that's what government does, okay? And has all of these plans and everything like that. And then it goes, cool, we spent more than our GDP that we make. Actually, let's, measure it based on the GDP. So if our GDP was X, 75% of the money was spent on the GDP. Okay? That would be a healthy country. That's retarded. But that's what a healthy country is nowadays. An unhealthy country is something like Italy, where, 150% of GDP is spent. Something like that. I don't know. Right? When is the point in which somebody goes, the math isn't math in here. You're a damn engineer in theory. You should understand what math is. Or are you a usurer? Even proven efforts like providing life-saving vaccines for all the world's children are not being fully funded. Oh, shiver me timbers. Salt and vinegar. Gavi, the vaccine buying fund, I didn't even know there was a thing, will have 25% less money for the next 5 years compared to the past 5 years. Oh, my heart cries. We have to think rigorously, and this we is not this we. Okay? This is esteem. This is you and me, the readers of the article, as well as Pravdeep, wherever he is, okay, in Delhi or something. We have to think rigorously and numerically about how to put the time and money we don't have any, to the best use. We don't have any. There is no money. There hasn't been any money for decades. Liar. So I urge everyone at COP30 to ask, how do we make sure aid spending is delivering the greatest possible impact for the most vulnerable people? Vulnerable now. They're not poor, they're vulnerable. Is the money designated for climate being spent on the right things? Because, for example, vulnerable people would be people that are in the way of harm. Like Ukrainians, like Russians at the moment. Both sides. And I'm not talking about the government or the concept of nation, I'm talking about people. They are vulnerable. Right? I am vulnerable because I'm constantly taxed, right? To a point where I am entering the realm of poverty with glee. Everybody is. Those are vulnerable. Lying scumbag. I believe... Oh, is there an ad coming? No, it's a photo. Okay, I believe the answer is no. To what? I'm so angry at you that I don't even know what you're saying. Is the money there being spent on the right things? I believe the answer is no. I agree. I don't think there should be any money designated for anything. So sometimes the world acts... The world... It's a new we, is it? The world acts as if any effort to fight climate change is as worthwhile as any other. As a result, less effective projects are diverting money and attention from efforts that will have more impact on the human condition, namely making it affordable to eliminate all greenhouse gas emissions and reducing extreme poverty with improvements in agriculture and health. Are you talking about Lebensraum? Is that you have your own version, do you? You are the individual who knows all of this, who knows what's best. And you're going to take my money and move it wherever you please to do what's best, which is usually not helping me. It's helping someone else. And I need to be happy about it because we I'm part of you. I agree with you. I don't. I don't. Take your hands out of my pocket. Take your hands out of everybody's pocket. Go away. Go play golf. Go play golf with a watermelon. I don't care what you do with your money. But leave us alone. If you're going to do this, do it alone. Go yourself. Megalomaniac. In short, climate change, disease and poverty are all major problems. We should deal with... I thought you were saying that this one is more important than the others before. And this one too. We should deal with them in proportion to the suffering they cause. At the cost of the taxpayer. And we should use data to maximize the impact of every action we take. You're wrong with every prediction all the time. Nobody must trust you. I believe that embracing the following 3 truths... Oh, guys, the information is coming. I'm prepared. Truth number 1. Truth. Sophists. I don't know Jack means truth now. Awesome. Climate change is a serious problem, but it will not be the end of civilization. But you were definitely saying that it would be. Till a minute ago. This is definitely the case. I remember. Am I misremembering? I don't know, because technically I never listened to him directly, I suppose. So that may be false. I don't know. Even if the world takes only moderate action to curb climate change, the current consensus is that by 2100 you do not know what the weather is going to be in 3 days. The Earth's average temperature will probably be between 2 and 3 Celsius higher than it was in the 50s. Oh no! Help! Excuse me, 1850s. How do you have such unconvincing arguments? There is no way in which any of this can be construed as an emergency. When you live in a world in which the population is starting to decline because they don't want to live. People are not reproducing because they don't want to live. There's a million crises. What's the plural of crisis? I think it's crisis. Anyway, a million crises all over the place that are serious, that of course would be solved by leaving the individual alone to start rebuilding with his own 2 hands. And this is what I need to be worried about. Truth number 1, guys. The average temperature will probably be between 2 and 3 Celsius higher than it was 200 years ago. 200 years ago, where there were records, of all sorts of records about the climate and everything. Wow. Let's see. Global warming probably less than 3 Celsius by Let's see. Projected warming. Okay. 2.9 Celsius, what countries are doing now? 2.1 Celsius, what countries promise to do. 1.9 Celsius if the world reaches net zero. Lol. Source, Climate Change Action Tracker. Oh, thanks. So the source is yourself. Note, doing now refers to the upper range of policies and actions. Promise to do refers to the upper range of pledges and targets. And net zero refers to the optimistic scenario, which is quite literally impossible. I think in Europe they say what? By 2035, every vehicle ever sold must be electric. Well, that must be fun, because where I live right now, I see 1 electric car every 500 or something like that. I live in a rural place of old Europe. I think the average vehicle's age here, which kind of gives away which country you live in, I think, is something like 25 or if not 30 years old. You know? So. And there's cars on the used marketplace, they have like 400,000 kilometers on them and it's perfectly normal. And they still go. That's, by the way, how you save the world. Stop wasting and building new crap. That would be great. Anyway, that's well above the 1.5 Celsius goal that countries committed to at the Paris COP in 2015. In fact, between now and 2040, we're going to fall far short of the world's climate goals. One reason is that the world's demand for energy is going up, more than doubling by 2050. Yeah, with the whole AI thing, I think it's going to absolutely explode as well, if I understand things correctly. No one cares about your crap, but you still won't stop advocating for governments to tax me, so that you will fail in your goal. Just like in the Vision of the Anointed by Thomas Sowell, it says, the anointed, who are the people who gives themselves power, essentially, these magical noblemen, of which Gates is very, very clearly part of, okay, or the lizard people, as some more conspiratorial people would talk to, the shadow governments, whatever you want to call them, okay? They come up with a crisis, they manufacture it, then they salt and vinegar to solve it, then inevitably their solutions, their ineffective solutions fail, then they blame something else, then they pivot. It's precisely what we're staring at right now. There's the pivoting happening right now, using the same techniques to fail in the same way, with your money. That's the thing that you need to be aware of. It's your money. You are being used as a battery, like in the Matrix. You are providing the blood, the energy, the feed to these awful people through theft, yeah? To pursue their retarded goals. And you have no way of saying no. From the standpoint of improving lives, using more energy is a good thing because it's so closely correlated with economic growth. This chart shows countries' energy use and their income. More energy use is part of key prosperity. So let's see what we got here. 1965. Wait, what was the date here? 1990. Careful, they move the thingy-mabobbies. So, our world in data notes low income data. Low income, okay. 1.k kilowatts, okay. Per person in high income countries. I don't know where we fit here. High income is $14,000 income per person per year. Low income is lower than $1,000. But that doesn't make any sense. Because where you get those $1,000, that $1,000 goes a very different way than when you get where you get the $14,000. This is not a measurement of anything. For example, when I used to work in Canada with the Canadian dollar, which was a fairly weak currency, I think it still is, right? What was my last salary in Canada? About 100K, something like that, right? And there it was a suitable, comfortable, what idiots would refer to as middle-class life, right? Then, when I moved back to Europe in a poorer country, my dollar would go a little bit further. I mean, it's full of scams, this country, so it's a bit different. But even though the euro was stronger, so you lost some money in the exchange, substantial amount, in fact. I was able to, if I had earned the same amount of money, it would have been an incredibly meaningful earnings for this country. Everything is adjusted to the location you're in. Right? In Germany, a banana is going to cost way more than, I don't know, a banana in Chile or something. For numerous reasons. Also because they get the bananas from there. I don't know that matters so much, though. Whatever. Point is, this doesn't make any sense. You can't use the US dollar as the sort of default currency and then say, see, the people here are poor. Yeah, but they're poor within their context. Whatever. Anyway. Interesting to see. What is the year here? Oh, that's so annoying when people don't know how to put a graph together. What the hell does that mean? So, wait. So this is a span of 60 years. This means this is approximately 20 years. So this would be 1985. We're here. We haven't moved. Look at this. Brrr. Everything's growing. Except this one, apparently. Low income is staying low income. Oh, there might be reasons. This is so incredibly complicated. This is a stupid graph. It doesn't tell you anything. Unfortunately, in this case, what's good for prosperity is bad for the environment. Although wind and solar have gotten cheaper and better, we don't yet have all the tools we need to meet the growing demand for energy without increasing carbon emissions. But it's all you and me, okay? Will have the tools we need if we focus on innovation. But I am not a we. I don't focus on innovation, man. I make things that some people care about and some people don't. I make entertainment products. That's what I do. That's my job, sort of. I don't focus on innovation except for that particular field, which doesn't help in any direction of anything. I don't have any tools to focus on anything. Now, the reason I'm putting this personally is because the we is a fake concept. In this case, we will have the tools refers to governments and himself and these types of entities. Of course, you will have the tools because you'll steal the money from me, who doesn't have any tools and has no interest in giving you any but has no option in the matter. With the right investments and policies in place over the next 10 years, we will have a new affordable zero carbon technologies ready to roll out at scale. Liars. Liars. Lies. Lies. They fail at every single thing they attempt. And they cost a stupid amount of money to people. And by money, of course, I mean livelihood. Because when stuff is stolen from you, your life gets worse. None of this helps your life and my life get better. Ever. Ever. It doesn't matter what he's saying. Like, where are we? Here, right? So the temperature goes up here, stuff happens, etc., etc. Right? This is in 2100. I'm dead. Are my children alive? Unlikely. Very unlikely. Yeah, my youngest is, how old is he now? Two, I think. Yeah, maybe 3. The wife knows. So you add 75 years to that, yeah, he might be alive. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. I mean, most people, that includes me, have trouble planning what happens next week. Okay? So, with the right investments and policies in place over the next 10 years, we will have new affordable zero, blah, blah, blah. Add in the impact of the tools we already have. What tools? You are a tool. That's what you are. And by the middle of this century, emissions will be lower and the gap between poor countries and rich countries will be greatly reduced. Ha ha! This is true. Do you know why? Because the poor countries are entering the rich ones, enriching them culturally as well as monetarily. Crime skyrocketing everywhere, right? Because animals are entering your country and you can't say no to that. Your country is no longer the extension of your family, so to speak. People travel all over the place, myself included, and we have no roots and no interest at all in this particular stuff. Some people, of course, do. And they want to keep them, except they can't. Because they can't say no to people coming in. The poor are becoming richer by going into richer countries. That's how they're doing it. It's beautiful. Okay? That is, of course, lowering the wealth, cultural and monetary, of the country in question. The target country. Okay? So yeah, the gap will be drastically reduced. Also, the rich countries are not reproducing at all. Much worse than the poorer country. So yes, it'll balance. And it's got sweet nothing to do with your tools. This is a scam. I wasn't sure this would be possible when Breakthrough Energy was started in 20... This is a different thing? I don't know. Wasn't it called... Was it this his foundation or something? I don't recall where it is. I could probably search for that. Whatever. Right. I wasn't sure this would be possible when breakthrough energy was started in 2015 after the Paris Agreement. Since then, the progress of breakthrough companies and others and the acceleration now being provided by the use of artificial intelligence have made me confident that these advances will be ready to scale. Everybody reading or listening to me, you see this word over here? This is a weasel word. And it's used by somebody who is saying, I don't know jack, but that's how I feel. Okay? I didn't know jack before because I was confident before, right? The climate change is the worst thing and and everything needs to be done. Or I was confident before the malaria needs to be solved or whatever. I'm confident we're going to get it done. You're not going to get anything done. You fail at everything. But at least I put an effort in. Yeah, with my money. Go away. Also, there's another angle that I kind of haven't touched on, which is whenever you start messing with these things, as Star Trek should have taught you, you cause unexpected butterfly events. Actually, I think I have touched on it. There's a domino effect of every action. Every door you open and shut another, okay, so you use the money of people that you steal instead of leaving it to them, for example, that's a door, right? You go through door A, heavy taxation, door A. Okay, cool. Then using the money for climate change research, door A. You close another 57 doors, okay? Now, there's results of what you've just done. These results have effects. Effects that you sometimes expect, sometimes don't. So you being confident in anything is worth nothing. The only way it's worth something is if you have the hubris of thinking that you're special, which I am sure he does. For reasonable reasons, right? He's made more money than most human beings. So he thinks of himself very highly, which is normal. That's fine. I may even think of him fairly highly myself. What I don't think, however, is that because I think of him highly, I want him to divert my tax money in different places that he decides are important. He's not an emperor. He's not been elected. Nobody wants this. Except the people in power, whom you cannot get rid of, because this is democracy, which it isn't. I don't care, Billy Bob Joe, that you are confident. And nobody should. Especially how many times you've been wrong should inform that your confidence is worth less than a toilet roll. A used toilet roll. A used toilet roll in Delhi. They don't have toilet rolls in Delhi, never mind. All countries will be able to construct buildings with low carbon cement and steel. Almost all new cars will be electric. That is terrible. That is dreadfully bad. The requirement in energy to power these turds skyrockets because of this. The energy in terms of electricity. That is a terrible idea. Anybody honest knows is a terrible idea. Farms will be more productive and less destructive. Retarded. Using fertilizer created without generating any emissions. I mean, most fertilizer is poo, so it's emissions by definition. Power grids will deliver clean electricity reliably and energy costs will go down. Aha, when this happens, yeah, I'm keen to see this because I have never seen it. The cost of energy going down with all of these additional things hasn't happened yet. Exactly, Flower. How many years do you need? What is it, a century? Because the cost of energy is skyrocketing. I know the little people don't matter to you. It's ideals that matter to you. But everybody's electricity bill has exploded in the last years. And I am old enough to remember, in various countries I've lived in before, that paying for my electricity bill was irrelevant. 20 years ago. I didn't think twice about it. And the same went for combustibles. Whenever I went to fill the tank when I was 19 and I wanted to travel from my town to Rome, I could have done it without any problem. I didn't think twice about filling the tank. I would fill the tank and go. And that's Europe, so it's already expensive. By now, it's ridiculous. Energy costs are enormous now, and everything you're doing is gonna make them rise. And your proposition that more energy equals more wealthy, comfortable people, implies that there's going to be more energy demand. Therefore, there needs to be more energy production. Therefore, all of the investment, this needs to be supported through costs. The cost of energy is climbing, will keep climbing. You are a liar. The only way for the cost of energy to go down is, there's two ways. One, probably, spoken as a complete amateur, right, is removing taxation. That I guarantee to you that makes the cost of energy go down straight away. Okay, so that's one. And two, focusing on cheap energy. Stuff that's easy to do. I do not know what that is. I'm not knowledgeable. Okay? But you're focusing on expensive stuff for ideological purposes or other things. It's all regulated. And all of his promises are lies. They have been lies forever now. Nobody should believe this man. Lol. What are these photos? What are these photos? What does that have anything to do with anything? Hey, look, it's me surrounded by black person. What? Pathetic. Even with these innovations, what does it say? Energy innovation will help health clinics like this one in Tanzania treat more patients. Yeah, but who's paying for it? Because if it's me, I don't want to help Tanzania. By force. I'll help it voluntarily if I want to. So, even with these innovations, though, the cumulative emissions will cause warming and many people will be affected. We'll see what you might call latitude creep. Okay. In North America, for instance, Iowa will start to feel more like Texas. Texas will start to feel more like northern Mexico. Although there will be climate migration, most people in countries near the equator won't be able to relocate. They will experience more heat waves, stronger storms, and bigger fires. Where we live, we experience lots of fires because people set forests ablaze. So that helps. Some outdoor work will need to pause during the hottest hours of the day, and governments will have to invest in cooling centers and what the heck is a cooling center? And better early warning system for extreme heat and weather events. Every time governments rebuild, whether it's homes in Los Angeles or highways in Delhi, they'll have to build smarter, fire-resistant materials, rooftop sprinklers, better land management to keep flames from spreading, and infrastructure designed to withstand harsh winds and heavy rainfall. It won't be cheap, but it will be possible in most cases. Unfortunately, this capacity to adapt is not evenly distributed, a subject I will return to below. Imagine all the people... No, go away. Nothing is ever evenly distributed, and nothing ever should be, you communist moron. Your utopia is unachievable. Go away. You make one better place, so it attracts loads of people that then go there and make themselves useful and valuable by becoming like the people who are local. Have you heard of America? Because that's where you're from. The America that's now fallen into the grasps of socialism and becoming evenly distributed poop. Still way better than everywhere else. There is no even distribution of anything, ever, in nature. Not of talent, not of anything. And certainly not of resources, not of wealth, not of anything. The meaning of life isn't to be equal to others. The meaning of life is to play the cards that fate has dealt you the best way possible. Do you know who the player is? Me. Or somebody else in their own lives. You in your own. That's the meaning of life. Something you never talk about. I don't know, it's your high IQ probably can't think about it. None of what you're saying matters, and none of what you're saying is possible. And you're wrong at all accounts. It's like talking to a sanitarium patient. It's like talking to somebody who believes they're Napoleon. Megalomaniac is the word. So, why am I optimistic that innovation will curb climate change? For one thing, because it already has. No, you're optimistic about this because you need to posture that there is hope at the end of the tunnel, and we're going through a difficult time, and we need to fund you get through the tunnel more effectively. And then, incidentally, the tunnel keeps shifting. Remember what I said about the pension plan? Say in Italy it's grown, I think, to 64 or something. I think it was 60 when I was a little boy. I don't know, the numbers will be wrong, it doesn't bloody matter. Point is they moved the tunnel. Okay? And all politicians always claim to be optimistic about stuff. All leaders of businesses always claim, I'm optimistic, the data are great, this is awesome, there is a future, the future is bright. This is just to reduce the doom and gloom, but keep people aware that the doom and gloom is still present and needs to be done something about, and therefore I need to give you my money. And I need to be roughly willing about it. Not that it matters, by the way. That's why you're optimistic. So, you probably know about improvements like better electric vehicles. Electric vehicles suck. Dramatically cheaper solar and wind power, unreliable, and batteries to store electricity from renewables. Yes, batteries have issues of their own. Anyway, what you may not be aware of is the large impact of these advances are having on emissions. 10 years ago, the International Energy Agency predicted that by 2040 the world would be emitting 50, whatever the number, carbon dioxide. Now, just a decade later, the forecast has dropped to 30 billion. And it's projecting that the 2050 emissions will be even lower. I have a question. The predictions can be wrong for other reasons, not because there have been changes. Because Al Gore and whatever his stupid association at the time was predicting that everybody would be running out of oil by a certain amount. And I'm sure that halfway in between, he was starting to say, see, it's running down here, we're detecting it here, detecting it there, otherwise he wouldn't have said it, I presume. And then eventually it became so stupid, this entire argument, that he went like, you know what, I should probably retire. I'm sure he's probably having a chat with you every now and then about stupid things, you friggin' megalomaniac lunatics, right? Predictions are wrong all the time about all sorts of things. The predicted amount of deaths during the magic virus everywhere was like ridiculous, and it was very much a bit underwhelming, wasn't it? So, I need you to stop predicting, and I need you to stop saying that your predictions, this happens to now fit your narrative and therefore good. Read that again. In the past 10 years, we've cut projected emissions by more than 40%. There's no we. And that's not what's happened. Probably. If... Look. The population growth predictions, or shrinking predictions, change constantly. Do you notice that? If you just listen to the news, and it comes from all over the place. I recall, was it 2-3 years ago, I was reading predictions that the population of Japan would shrink by about 30%. I thought that recently, I'm not sure I'm quoting anything, but it got worse to about 50%, something like that. Do you know what that means, right? It doesn't mean that all of a sudden people have started ingesting other people. That's not what happened. What happened is that the predictions were wrong. That's what happened. That's all. Now, mind you, a wrong prediction that is in the ballpark okay-ish is better than none. But there's no reason to use these as any more than a vague guiding light. These predicting something goes to something doesn't mean that A, it will happen, and it doesn't mean that you know what factors are causing all of this or affecting things. Innovation has cut future emissions by 40% in just 10 years. I very, 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 very simply do not believe you. Man, the sleight of hand. I've just noticed it. Let's see. I'm just going to mention it. I'm not going to quiz you, right? So it says, basically, right here, they predicted we would be emitting X, right? But this forecast has dropped to Y. We then reiterate the thing and push the optimistic messages. And then in the title of the chart, it says, innovation has cut future emissions by number. We have gone from our predictions, our suggestions, our whatever, and we have very quickly transitioned into a fact. Did you notice that? Oh, but that's just for abbreviation's sake. Lies. You can fit the word projected emissions right here. Look at how much room you've got. It would even look like a better graph because the title would fit better here. In fact, if we had the word projected right here, I think it would work better. Let's see. Refers to the current policy scenario. The stated policy scenario from their respective years. Okay, wait, see, even this is a lie. Because a stated policy scenario, like it was in this particular graph that I was complaining is stupid. No, not this one, okay? They were promised to do in the policies in action. So if the agenda says, so here is what we are actually doing, okay? And here is what we are promising to do. But this is important. Innovation has cut future emissions. You can't know this. This is false. But other than that, we're good. Wait, is it in just 10 years? Is it? Okay, so this would be this point, from this point to this point. Dude. Sophistry. Through data. In fact, through data presentation. Unbelievable. Quite literally unbelievable. So, this progress is not part of the prevailing view of climate change, but it should be. What made it possible is that the green premium, the cost difference between clean and dirty ways of doing something, reached zero or became negative for solar, wind power, storage, and electric vehicles. I don't believe you, even if you show me the data. By and large, they are just as cheap as, or even cheaper than, their fossil fuel counterparts. It's not... I don't understand what you're talking about. You're talking about production. That can't be real. The fuel extraction process has already been built. You had to build new infrastructure. This is not possible. So the building is not possible. From a taxation perspective, I know you're lying. Meaning from the final cost that gets in your hand of something. Like fossil fuel, for example, is absurdly expensive because of the quantity of crap tax that's put on top of it. Your country may have carbon tax. You may have a fuel tax, and which is much older than that, and you might have a VAT. Where I live, I think all three of these apply. So my fuel costs, say when I was in Canada, in Montreal, in 2010, this would have been, I think. Yeah, so 2010, 2011, 1 litre of fuel was 99 cents Canadian. In Europe, now, 1 litre of the same fuel, it's not the same because the octane is different, because that's how it works in the different countries for whatever reason. I think in Canada 91 was the one. Here it's 95, but I'm not sure that the measurements are the same. Whatever, right? Costs €1.80, €1.70. It fluctuates, right? But a peak was €2. €2 a litre. Now €2 is... 6 Canadian dollars, something like that. Is that too much? I'm not sure. I'm doing it by, I could look up something else. Actually, I don't know. I might be able to do that on the fly. Dude, let's try. It worked. Awesome. So let's say CAD to EUR, right? Cool. So if you say 2 euros, so 6 it wasn't. I apologize. But it is 3.24, whereas 99 cents would have been 60 cents of a euro. I mean, people here, oh, pardon me, you can't see that because of how things are placed. Trust me. Okay, anyway, hey, I'm new to these, more or less. Anyway, so their fossil fuel counterparts, everything is a lie, cool. Of course, to get net zero, we need more breakthroughs. This will become even more important if new evidence shows that climate change will be much worse than what the current generation of climate model predicts. You know that the generation of climate models may have changed from here to here, but he hasn't told you. You know that it says new evidence shows that climate change will be much worse. This is the word evidence, yeah? You're using it very liberally. I would call you my friend, but that would be rhetorical. My enemy, right? No, just no. These are predictions. Because we will need to lower the green premium faster and accelerate the transition to a zero emission economy. Accelerate it. I don't know about this, man. Luckily, humans' ability to invent is better than it has ever been. Blah. Says things. Awesome. Breakthrough Energy focuses its new investment on the areas of innovation that still have a large positive green premiums. Below I write about the state of play in the 5 sectors of the economy that are responsible for all carbon emissions. I cover highlights and challenges. One common theme will be the difficulty of scaling rapidly. And I'll include some of the companies Breakthrough Energy works with so you can see how much activity there is in each sector. All greenhouse gas emissions come from one of 5 sources. This, and this. Okay, so transportation will be where electric cars go. Okay, that's 2022. So, of course, we're infecting this area for no reason. Beautiful. And making it really, really difficult for people to adopt this, because in case you didn't notice, the tech of electric cars is disgustingly terrible. In fact, let me touch on this real quick. Okay, so an electric car is something you need to build, and there is no reason to build because there's so many cars already, right? If you build this car, somebody who gets into an electric car gets rid of their old car. Now they could sell it, which is moral because then somebody else will use it. Beautiful. Or they could scrap it, which is retarded because it's destruction. Destruction is always bad. Okay? And that generates bad things, emissions, waste, whatever. Trash. Okay. Now, you get yourself into an electric vehicle. An electric vehicle is expensive. Even the cheap ones are very, very, very expensive. All vehicles nowadays, to be fair, especially new ones, are very expensive. Like, what are you going to find that's cheap? A Dacia Sandero? Okay? Electric cars are unprofitable to make and to sell. One of the reasons for this is nobody wants them. The adoption of electric vehicles is extremely slow. Then you need to build the infrastructure right here and here. So, if you need to build a new electric car... I need to talk about something else. The electric car loses value like a rock on Jupiter. You drive your electric car off the lot and sell it 10 years later with 100,000 more kilometers, your electric car is worth a fraction of what you bought it for. And there's numerous reasons why. Because an electric car is perishable in a way that a combustion engine car is not. Nowhere close. Particularly older ones, by the way. Like when you can find an old, I don't know, 1980s Mercedes taxi with like 600,000 kilometers on the clock, right? You're going like, this is amazing. This is incredible. This workhorse, yes, it has burned things, fine. But it has it's done so much. It's transported so many people, so many places. It's incredible. It's worthy of awe. An electric car does not do that, generally speaking. You need to change the batteries every now and then because they are perishable, just like your stupid iPhone. It's the same thing. Okay? But looking at this fantastical graph, if the electric car manufacturing continued at its current click, this number would go up and this number would go up. This number may go down, but this number goes up and this number goes up. You're just shifting the stuff. I don't know what's happening. 28% of global emissions is electricity. Making electricity. Oh gosh, do I have to read all of this crap? I suppose. Sorry, the video is long. You know, I'm reading an article. It's important. I'm not getting a video of somebody else telling me what they think about the thing. I'm telling you what I think about the thing because Mike's opinionated. So, making electricity is the second biggest source of emission, but it's arguably the most important. To decarbonize the other sectors, we'll have to electrify a lot of things that currently use fossil fuels. Okay. So, what uses a lot of fossil fuels? It will be manufacturing, I'm assuming, agriculture, definitely, and transportation. So electricity right now is the second biggest source of emission. I'm assuming that some places use coal and they use diesel or something to make electricity in some way, right? So there will be some of it in here. So the proposition is that you reduce that to zero, because that's the idea. You reduce this one to zero, you reduce this one to zero. You're going to have to spend a lot of money in here. You're completely disregarding the trash that you're generating. You're disregarding what people want, of course. I'm confused a little bit. So, let's see. New approaches to wind power can generate more energy using less land, and advances in geothermal mean it's being tapped in more places around the world. Example, fervor baseload capital Nerlum. I do not know what that is. Geothermal. Okay. Companies are pilot testing highly efficient power lines that can transmit much more electricity than the previous generation of cables. Yeah, what do you do with all the old cables though? I mean, they should generally be recyclable, I suppose, but that can't be a cheap process. Cheap both in terms of cost and energy. Also, good luck replacing cables in India. That'll be fun. We need, did you see those? They are looms. It's beautiful. We need to keep reducing the cost of clean energy that's available around the clock. Obviously, that we is you and me, so we're clear. Including the new nuclear fission and fusion facilities. More than half of today's emissions from electricity can only be eliminated using these so-called firm sources, but they have a green premium well over 50%. I'm hopeful that we can get rid of the green premium with fission. Next, haven't humans been talking about fission for the past freaking 60 years or something? Well, certainly since when I was alive, I remember this. I remember doing anything in school talking about it. A next generation nuclear power plant is under construction in Wyoming, and fusion, which promises to give us an inexhaustible supply of cheap and clean electricity, has moved from science fiction to near commercial. Well, that's good news, I suppose. So, manufacturing, 30% of global emissions. When someone tells you they know how to curb emissions, the first question you should ask is, what's your plan for cement and steel? No, the first thing you should ask is, do you want my money to do that? And if the answer is yes, well, then you're going to have to ask pretty please. And if I agree to give it to you, then you can continue with whatever bloody plan you may have. That's the first question you should ask. They're key to modern life, and they're hard to decarbonize on a global scale because it's so cheap to make them with fossil fuels. Zero emission steel exists today. It's made using electricity. So if you can get clean electricity that's cheap enough, you end up with clean steel that's cheaper than the conventional type. The technology still needs to get into more markets, and companies that make clean steel need to expand their capacity. Boston Metal and Electra. Okay. where I live right now, in this house, my building was based on some old ruin and everything like that, and there's laws against changing that. So, I mean, this is so future facing. It's all about construction. It's not about maintaining anything that exists or modifying something that exists in order to make it better. It's all about, this has nothing to do with any clean crap. What it has to do is generating new industries. In other words, making more rubbish. Making more rubbish is always bad for the environment. The end. So clean cement faces similar hurdles. Several companies have found ways to make it with no green premium, but it takes years to get a foothold in the global. This is all too technical. I don't care. Fundamentally, one of the biggest energy surprises of the past decade is the discovery of geologic hydrogen. Eventually, hydrogen will be used to make clean fuels. I don't know. Toyota's trying it with the Mirai. It's not working so good. I don't know. Companies are beginning to roll out ways to either capture carbon from facilities that currently emit it, such as I've read about this thing and listened about this thing of capturing carbon, and there's two schools of thought. One school of thought thinks it's completely retarded because it's expensive to do, so it makes no sense. And the other school of thought is that it's one of the must-do things. Agriculture, let's see, farmers can already buy one replacement for synthetic fuel fertilizer that's made without any emissions and another that turns methane. Both are selling at a negative green premium. Now the challenge is to produce them in a large quantity and persuade farmers to use them. Well, you'll persuade them through forcing them through law. Easy. This is not a challenge. Come on, you can do this. I believe in you. Additives to cattle feed that keep livestock from producing methane are nearly cheap enough to be economical for farmers. Yeah, because cows, apparently cow farts are a big deal. Vaccine that does the same thing has been shown to... What? A vaccine that stops you from farting? It's now moving... How does that... Is that a vaccine? It's now moving into the next stage of development. Another source of methane is the cultivation of rice, one of the world's most important staple foods. I'm Italian, I don't do rice. Risotto, maybe. Companies are helping rice farmers around the world adopt new methods that both... One stubborn problem is that some of the nitrogen fertilizer seeps into the atmosphere as nitrous oxide, a potent greenhouse gas. It's very diluted, I think is what you mean to say. Or is it correct? I don't know. Which makes it hard to capture. I don't know. Okay, so transportation. 16% of global emissions. 1 in 4 cars sold was an EV. Oh, I would like to see these data. That's China doing all of this. That is not real. And more than 10% of all vehicles in the world are electric. Okay, well, they're all where I'm not. So, in some countries, including the US, they still have disadvantages to long charging times and too few public charging stations that keep them from being as practical as gas-powered cars. In addition, cars and trucks are just one part of the sector, which also includes tough to decarbonize activity like shipping and aviation. Tough. Like impossible, but okay. Airplane emissions are projected to double by 2050, and clean jet fuel still comes with a green premium over 100%. Today, we know of only 2 cost-effective ways to produce it, with algae or make synthetic fuel using very cheap hydrogen. Companies are in the early stages of work on both approaches. As more transportation goes electric, the demand for batteries is going to increase, which is why companies have developed ways to make them cheaper and more efficient. What you're not talking about, though, my friend, is the fact that batteries seem to be almost impossible to recycle. There's loads of issues about this whole battery and vehicle thing. For example, if you so much as dent your battery, your insurance will not cover the cost and the car is totaled. I mean, you just recuperate that and then you have a very big, heavy stapler. I am not happy with this. The particularly the way this is depicted. I know a fair bit about cars just because it's a personal interest of mine, and it's nowhere like this. This is just where are we? Here, right? This is all roses and beautiful. Just essentially states this, that an EV is objectively better, and that is impossibly false. There are too many issues with EVs at the moment, and people do not want them. The only way, the reason why EVs are up
in sales is because there's subsidies, enormous subsidies. But what you should say is the Renault Zoe, for example, is out of production. Right? The Mercedes EQ Third, right? What, sold 3 cars? One of them to the CEO's mother, right? It's not. There's issues. Tesla's been successful as a pioneer, and because Muskie Boy was a darling of the left, and now he's not so darling, but they had to slash prices and all sorts of stuff. I don't think Tesla's profitable. I'm not actually knowledgeable enough to say this, but lots of companies in the car manufacturing world are sounding the alarm bells, saying we're going to have to fire left, right, and center. We cannot carry on with this because it's not profitable. The electric car does not make money. The cost column is too high compared to the profit column. It makes no sense. And the governments are subsidizing the purchases. So if you go and buy an EV that's new, and let's say it costs you 20k, sometimes you can pay 12k, and those 8k are donated by the government, which is a circular concept because you're donating it to yourself through taxation. And not taxation for you, but taxation for your grandchildren by now, or whatever the amount of grands I need to put in front. This doesn't work, right? This should be voluntary. This is the thing that I cannot stand about all of these megalomaniacs like Bill Gates is none of them ever consider people's will. And there's one reason everybody lives, is to do what they want. That's why he imported Porsches on the grey market when he wanted one in the US. Back in the day. This is wrong. All of this is wrong. It's wrong philosophically. Okay? And no part of anything he's saying ever. Actually, that's a lie. Right here. This is the first time throughout the entire read that I've done. What is it? An hour and a half I've been doing this? Yeah, this is the only time in which he is talking in a vaguely moral way. Persuade. Like, people don't buy necessarily into what you're saying, Billy Bob Joe. And the issue with that is that you don't care. This is the first time you have shown any degree of caring for that. And you don't. You don't show it anywhere. You don't. I, for example, do not want an EV for any reason. So, what the government is going to do, for sure, in my lifetime, it's already happening here, because I pay road tax on my vehicles based on their horsepower and displacement. Right? And I need to pass emission tests every year on all vehicles. So it's very expensive to keep my vehicles, right? The government makes an electric vehicle attractive by making it cheaper to buy, as I've said, and cheaper to own because I don't need to inspect it as frequently, or the inspection is cheaper because less tests need to be done, whatever the case may be. That, right? Okay. Then, because there is no such thing as displacement, the horsepower does matter, but I don't think they tax based on that, right? The road tax is almost nothing, even though it doesn't make any sense, particularly because electric vehicles are way heavier, so they ruin roads way more. So there's that. Electric vehicles require charging in a certain way. I live very rural, so charging for me becomes very difficult where I live. The power is very weak. If I turn on the oven and the dishwasher at the same time, I can trip, right? So that's not an option. I know the electric bill climbs substantially when you have a car, where I live at least, an electric car. Because whenever I talk to the electrical company and ask them about this, they ask me if I have an electric vehicle. That's one example. The whole charging from place to place is irritating. It's slow and stupid. Recently, in the town I live, somebody has vandalized the only charging station by cutting the cables, I assume to harvest them for copper. And that's a serious problem. So there's so many negatives to owning and dealing with an electric vehicle for many people. Lots of people love them. Brilliant. Buy them. Buy them. But at full price. Here's why. Do you believe in the climate rubbish? You do. Fantastic. Then show it with your cash. Right? Why? Because you need to support the companies that are taking the leap and making them, like Tesla and whatnot. But that's not the argument that Mr. Gates makes. Mr. Gates makes the argument that it's perfectly reasonable. In fact, you know what? The government should just pay for all of the electric cars and force us all to go into them, not to persuade us. Some people have been persuaded by the electric vehicle and they love it and they buy it and they drive it. That's great. Where I live, it's all diesel. Right? So, buildings, 7% of global emissions. Heating and cooling buildings is the smallest light of global emissions today, but it's going to skyrocket with urbanization and the growing need for air conditioning. No, it's going to go down because the number of the population goes down. You're lying and you're wrong. Moving on. Temperature. Oh, truth number 2, mate. Oh, wow. Look at how far up I am. Blimey, I might give up on this. I'll stop at the 2-hour mark. Temperature is not the best way to measure our progress on climate. Okay? Doesn't tell us anything about the quality of people's lives. Okay. If droughts kill your crops, can you still afford food? When there's an extreme heat wave, can you go somewhere with air conditioning? When a flood causes a disease outbreak, can the local health clinic treat everyone who's sick? Okay, so you're jumping between 2 categories here. Except I think temperature is the best way to measure progress on climate. Because the climate and temperature, climate doesn't care at all whether you live or die. So quality of life well, it doesn't because it doesn't have a will. So quality of life may seem like a vague concept, but it's not. One useful tool for measuring it is the United Nations Human Development, which provides a snapshot of how people in a country are faring, from 0 to 1, with higher numbers meaning better outcomes. If you look through the list of the HDI scores of the world's countries, the disparities leap out at you. Switzerland has the higher HDI, South Sudan the lowest at 33%, I suppose. The 30 countries with the lowest HDI scores are home to 1 out of every 8 people on the planet. Okay, why did you express it in such a complicated fashion? But they produce only about 1/3 of 1% of the global GDP. So, they have the highest poverty rates and, tragically, the worst health outcomes. Okay, a child born in South Sudan is 39 times more likely to die before her first birthday. Oh, you're a modern man, are you? Fifth birthday than one born in Sweden. Let's quickly tackle this. Grammatically speaking, this is retarded. English, like many other languages, whenever it needs to pick a gender, and gender is the correct term here because it's a grammatical term, is masculine dominant. That's it. Now, in English, this is not that noticeable, but in other languages, it is absolutely noticeable. I'm going to give you the example of Italian. So, Italian doesn't have a neutral gender like English does, because everything in English is neutral. A male thing, cat, person, whatever, or an endearment term is masculine, and you could say the ship, she is, right? That's what I mean by term and endearment, or feminine, right? So that's what you got. In Italian, you only have masculine and feminine. So you always need to pick a lane. For example, milk is masculine, whereas chair is feminine. Okay? Right. So, whenever you have a situation in which you need to summarize a masculine object and a feminine object and pluralize them, the plural will always be masculine. Say, for example, if you say both the chair and the milk are on the table. Chair doesn't quite work that way. What should I say? There, fork. Fork is feminine, right? So both the fork and the spoon, there, feminine for fork, spoon is masculine. Both the fork and the spoon are on the table, right? You would say the spoon and the fork, both of them,
So tutti e due, tutti is masculine. Always. Some people argue that if you put fork second, you can go with the feminine. But I think that's a modern decay of language. That's fine. Everybody understands when you say a child born, you can say his. It's okay. Only an idiot will think you're being sexist. Okay? But by doing what you do, you are being sexist. So well done. Anyway. To die before her first birthday, then one born in Sweden. There's a lot of elements to discuss into this. How many are born, in what conditions? Like Sweden probably has one baby every 3 years or something. Like, it's gonna be bad, right? The cultural aspects, all types of stuff. No. Watch Star Trek, mate. You don't belong in Sudan. Go away. This inequity is the reason our climate strategy needs to prioritize human welfare. This may seem obvious. Who could be against improving people's lives? I am. I'm fairly sure lots of people are. I'll give you a very clear example. Do you know what would improve my life right now? Massively. If you, Bill Gates, give me 10% of your wealth. It will improve my life. And not just mine. My children, my wife, most likely the area all around me. It will spread like wildfire. Should we take a vote, the UN, as to whether Mike's life should be improved with Bill Gates' money? Because I think it would be very negative. I think everybody will not want that. Right? So let us rephrase the sentence you're actually asking. Who could be against, okay, is not a question. What you're doing is you're framing it in such a way that anybody who is against is a monster. Anything, or whatever you're about to propose. Improving, you're basically making the good old communist arguments that you just chuck money at something and things will get better, which is not factual. People, this is stupid because you're improving some person's life and worsening somebody else's. In the example that I gave, I'm worsening yours because I'm taking some of your stuff. Okay. And you never account for people's will. That's the problem with sophists. They don't consider anything. Right? And this message, well, no, sorry. What I just said is kind of quite stupid because it's not that the sophists do. What the sophist is doing here is just essentially forcing you to agree. That's what the sophist does. Right? This inequity is the reason our climate strategy needs to prioritize human welfare. Not true. Not true at all. This may seem obvious. It's not obvious. Like, this is all sophistry, right up to here. But sometimes human welfare takes a backseat to lowering emissions with bad consequences. I don't know what that means, but whatever. So the inequity is extremely complex, but fundamentally boils down to you are over there and I'm over here. Our histories are fundamentally different, etc., 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 etc. Okay? This lady, for example, has her own chickens. I have my own chickens. Most people in Sweden don't have chickens. They live in a different way. I am certain that where I live right now and the way I live, I will be classed as poor. By comparison to some people and rich by comparison to others. I do not want equity. I have moved away from a rich place to come here on purpose. Nani? Yes, I've done it because I wanted to live more rural and fundamentally poorer. And other reasons that you are not privy to. But I've got my
orange tree is right there, and a mandarin tree that's right here, and I have 21 olive trees now that I have harvested and made olive oil of our own for the first time this year. An apple tree just died, unfortunately. The peach tree didn't produce anything this year. The chestnut tree is producing them, but they're very small and not particularly effective. And so on. It's like, I decided to live this way, man. I went towards poverty. It is my choice! Now, perhaps this Sudanese lady would prefer not to have flip-flops and live in Sweden and work for some nameless company, being bored out of her mind and have no children. Okay? We don't know any of this. You don't, I don't, nobody does. Because it's impossible to account for every sparrow's fall. Now, is it probably the case that childbirth, etc., in these locations is worse? Yes, but it balances itself out, I'm assuming, right? They probably have more kids to account for the fact that many of them don't make it for whatever reason. It sounds incredibly cruel, but it isn't, and it doesn't mean to be, right? It's like people in South Sudan can, and we know that they can because they can move to other places should they want to go. For many reasons they do it. And for many reasons the places that they move to don't really want them there. So it's absurdly complicated. Everything this individual is saying is a lie. Because he can't improve lives, he can change them. And they may not have asked. And as he's improving their lives, he's making mine worse because he wants equity. It's wrong that Cristiano Ronaldo needs to pay a stupid amount of tax forcibly. Okay, in order, or LeBron James, whoever you prefer, right? In order to help others. It's wrong. This needs to stop. It never will, but there you go. Oh, goodness gracious, this is endless. Multilateral lenders are being pushed by wealth shareholders, stop financial fossil fuel, blah, blah, blah. Granted, situations like these are complicated. Oh, thanks. Since burning fossil fuels helps people. Now, at the cost of making the climate worse for people in the future. I'm kind of running out of steam, sorry, people. But remember, climate change is not the biggest threat to the lives and livelihoods for people in poor countries. No, mate. Climate change doesn't exist as a concept in these countries. And it won't be in the future. In the next section, I'll explain why and what it means for our climate strategies. Okay? Whatever. So, truth number three. I've gone Irish. Health and prosperity are the best defense against climate change. Rubbish. Lies. You have just flipped it round completely. You're moving all of your goalposts. It's beautiful. I'm not going to keep on reading. You are dull and a liar. And all you want to do is keep on stealing from people like me forever for your grand designs so you are relevant in history. And there's nothing anybody, myself included, can do about it. Because you always operate in an immoral, forcible way. You are deeply immoral, sir. All you can do is force others and rob them. And that's what you're fundamentally proposing. All of your lofty language about we must do this, we must do that, who would disagree with me, it's important, and this and that, and this is the new goal, and then this is the new goal right now, and that's the next goal, etc., etc., etc. I really fundamentally don't care what's in your quest log. I really don't. And I will in fact wager, without doing a poll, that a scary proportion of the planet, if polled on an individual basis, will agree with me from this perspective, meaning they will be in my camp of we don't care what you think.
and by you I mean you, etc., the companies and whatnot, if this all of these initiatives that you speak of were profitable and were of interest to people, then they would immediately become profitable. So what you need to do in order to do... You know what? Here we go. I'll finish the video on this. This is good. I like this. This is good. I'm going to end on a positive note. I'm going to be propositive now. In order for you to be philosophically not bankrupt, here's what you need to do, Mr. Billy Bob Joe. All of your rhetoric must change from we have to, da 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 da, this is a problem, whatnot. It must change to persuasion is key. There is no buy-in in some aspects by a very substantial chunk of the population, which by the way hurts you, because when then the wrong party gets elected, right, which by the way means 50% of the population think you're a potato, or that everything you're saying is valueless, okay, then that party works against you. Now I know that you are in the shadow government, so you like to essentially influence everything and everyone, but what would work for you to actually go to the pearly gates one day and go, hey, how's it going, Peter? Yes, let me in, please, because now you're going straight to the other side. And this is just figurative language. I don't necessarily believe in any of this, right? You would be persuading individuals in a persuasive way. Because your text here is attempting to be persuasive. That's what it's trying to do. Right? By not mentioning how any of this is going to be achieved and has been achieved, which is through robbery. And without any degrees of consent. So, small initiatives that move the needle in one or the other direction, that get donations from people. Do it all based on donations. I want to see no government intervention of any kind in any of this. If this were the case, there would be no electric cars right now. Which then will lead you to go, see, but then I'm right. This is the right way. Yeah, but it's right in the sense that it's practical. It's Alinsky-like. You obtain the result you want. That's great. But you trample on other people's right to decide their own destiny. And that particular bit is completely absent from all of your equations. Because you're an immoral, and I would use a swear word, but I've already used one in Italian, and I've used one accidentally in English, so I will control myself and not do that. But you're immoral. You're immoral. This is wrong. Everything you're doing is wrong. I don't care that it produces the result you want. It might be pragmatic, but it is unprincipled. People need to make their own decisions because that's where the meaning of life comes from. If then everything dies in a ball of fire, c'est la vie. This will, of course, never happen. Because the moment in which risk is perceived by individuals step up and congregate to resolve problems, as has always happened. This is one of my favorite things, by the way, because individuals like Bill Gates are spectacularly ineffective. They're way more effective than any normal people such as myself, but they're ineffective in the sense that lots of the things that they purport to have pushed for would have happened anyway. For example, if he limited himself to talking and financing with his own money, not mine, and not affecting governments, most of the results would have probably been achieved anyway. Because the population, myself included, become aware of these issues, and some people will adopt them, and some people will buy the Tesla, and so on and so forth. Some people will buy the Chinese turds that are coming in, the BYDs and stuff like that, right? That's great. That's beautiful. But I do not want to buy a BYD for any reason. And you're very keen on forcing me to. And I won't have it. And I will protest in this way if I can avoid it. So, very long video this time around. Goodbye, Mr. Billy Bob Joe. I'm not reading anymore because this is ridiculous. Your presentation is 3,000 hours of platitudes and fake information. Goodbye.